Good afternoon, TB, back with you. Black Living Room Talk. And now we're moving into color, racism, and Christianity. Isn't this going to be interesting? I don't own the rights to this music. If you hear it, I'm still listening to it. It's called Neo Soul. And I'm also looking at the artist making some beautiful African art. Where we left off was, I was really, what got me interested is I've heard about the Zeitgeist before, which is the spirit of the age. Then the other word, Volkgeist, between the spirit of the community, Volkgeist. So now I know what that is. See what reading will do? I always say that reading is mind-mental. Others say reading is fundamental. Okay, but it's mind-mental. Think about that. So anyway, let's proceed. Oh yeah, the Weltanschauung, all, which means all peoples can share. I'm gonna put that in my notebook. So now we're getting into Color, Racism, and Christianity by Roger Bastide. Never do I add to or take from. I'm reading it just like he wrote it. Sartre has brought out quite well the part the eye plays in racial attitudes. But he does not go far enough. The eye has its substitutes. Some time ago we discovered in talking to blind persons that they recognize immediately the race of persons whom they meet, without any mistake, by smell, by the texture of the skin, and especially by the voice. My comment. Our voices, black voices, are quite different from Caucasian voices, white voices. I remember hearing a white man say that our voices are like instruments. We make music without the instruments because our voices are the instruments. So of course, I can agree with that they can tell, a blind person can tell the race of the person. It says especially by the voice. Let's carry on. On the basis of this sensory information, they react exactly as the sighted do. Wow. With antipathy or aloofness if they are racially sensitive, or with a kind of physical attraction if they are not. This shows that any kind of perception can serve as a stimulus to racial attitude. Color is neutral. It is the mind that gives it meaning. What is important is not so much the ability to see, but the ability to see what others see. It is not so much my eye as the eyes of those who surround me. A blind person knows that he is seen. The voice, high-pitched or hoarse, of anyone who speaks to him releases instantly the reactions that society has built up in him. These reactions are the same as those of the sighted. Colors are not important in themselves as optical phenomena, but rather as bearers of a message. The blind people whom we interrogated were Brazilians. They belong to a country in which prejudice is based not on race but on color, where discrimination varies in direct proportion to the blackness of the skin. The ideal woman is not a blonde or a fair-skinned woman, but a brunette or dark-skinned woman, and especially a rosy-tinted mulatto woman. A blind Brazilian replaces the entire gamut of color tints by shades of voice, and he reacts in the same way as a person who can see. He performs immediately the transposition from one register to another and finds in the sonorities recorded by his ear the message that the sighted attached to color. This experiment led us to concentrate our attention on the symbolic perception of color and of differences in racial attitude in the various Christian faiths. To study these particular dimensions, the Christian religion must be disassociated from the churches. While religion transcends the world, the church itself is very much in the world. It always finds itself in a particular social situation, and its reactions are determined by its environment. The church, whose history began in the Pentecost, may deserve and try to be, in Tertullian's phrase, a genus tertium, a third race over and above the conflict between the Greeks and the barbarians. It is nevertheless established in a world of Babel, or Babel, a world of disunity and discord. Although the most liberal Christians of South Africa recognize, for example, the brotherhood of men before God, they were willing to accept segregation of worship if providing the same church for the white and black natives. The Afrikaners and the Bantus were considered harmful to the cause of Christ among the Christians. Reno Ribeiro describes in this connection a rather curious case that occurred in Brazil. A Protestant pastor from North America serving in Recife, Brazil, showed himself to be extremely tolerant and unbiased while there. The moment he stepped on the airplane to return to the United States, however, all his southern prejudice immediately returned. He had not changed his faith. He had simply found himself in a different social situation. Sociologists have shown that the Negro churches were above all instruments of self-expression for the colored community as a separate unity, as is the case with the Muslim faith today. They were instruments of protest and of racial revolt. They were, in essence, more social than religious. But we do not wish to place ourselves in this article in the field of sociology of human, only two human institutions. Only two human institutions, but rather in the field of religious feeling and experience, phenomenology. Excuse me for that. Christianity has been accompanied by a symbolism of color. This symbolism has formed and cultivated a sensitivity to color that extends even to people who claim to be detached from religion. It has created a backwash of fixed impressions and attitudes difficult to efface. Racial hatred has not evolved solely from this Christian symbolism, nor can it be fully explained by economic causes alone. Its roots extend much farther and deeper. They reach into sexual complexes and into religion through the symbolism of color. In human thought, every gulf or separation tends to take the form of a conflict of color. This holds not only for concrete obstacles of tribal separation, as between the Indians of the plain and the ancient Mexicans, but also for obstacles between men, as in the social structure of ancient Egypt or the caste of India. Christianity has brought no exception to this very general rule, I'd say. There is a danger of confusing in Christianity that which belongs to the scope of rationalization, that which can, as in all ideology, be explained in the final analysis by the economic infrastructure and the symbolism of color, which falls within the scope of pure religion, When Christians tried to justify slavery, they claimed black skin was a punishment from God. They invoked the curses cast upon Cain, the murderer of his brother, and upon Ham, son of Noah, who had found his drunken father naked in his tent. Against the background of this symbolism, they invented causes for the malady, intended to justify, in their own eyes, a process of production based upon the exploitation of Negro labor. Later, other rationalizations and counter-rationalizations got woven around the same symbolism. The Christian symbolism of color is very rich. Medieval painting makes full use of it. Some colors are, however, more pertinent to this discussion than others. The color yellow, or at least a dull shade of yellow, has come to signify treason. When Westerners think of Asiatics, they unconsciously transpose this significance to them, converting it into a trait of ethnic psychology. Consequently, they treat Asiatics as persons in whom they cannot have confidence. They can, of course, give excellent reasons in defense of their behavior: the closed or uncommunicative character of the Japanese, the smiling impassiveness of the Chinese, or some historic case of treason, but these are all reasons invented after the fact. If Westerners could have prevented themselves from being influenced by a symbolism centuries old, they could just as easily have found reasons to justify an impression of the yellow race as loyal and affectionate. But the greatest Christian two-part division is that of white and black. What is used to express the pure, while black expresses the diabolical. The conflict between Christ and Satan, the spiritual and the carnal. Good and evil came finally to be expressed by the conflict between white and black, which underlines and synthesizes all the others. Even the blind who know only night think of a swarm of angels or of devils in association with white and black. For example, a black soul, the blackness of an action, a dark deed, the innocent whiteness of the lily, the candor of a child. To bleach someone of a crime. These are not merely adjectives and nouns. Whiteness brings to mind the light, ascension into the bright realm, the immaculateness of virgin snow, the white dove of the Holy Spirit, and the transparency of limpid air. Blackness suggests the infernal streams of the bowels of the earth, the pit of hell, the devil's color. This dichotomy becomes so dominant that it drags certain other colors along with it. Celestial blue became a simple satellite of white in painting the cloak of the Immaculate Virgin, while the red flames of hell became a fit companion for the darkest colors. Thinking is so enslaved to language that this chain of associated ideas operates automatically when a white person finds himself in contact with a colored person. Mario DeAndrade has rightly exposed the evils of this Christian symbolism as being rooted in the very origins of the prejudice of color. In America, when a Negro is accepted, one often says, in order to separate him from the rest of his race, he is a Negro, of course, but his soul is white. I'm going to stop right there. And the next time, I'll be reading the same chapter, Color, Racism, and Christianity by Roger Bastide. And we'll be getting into where it starts to discuss Christ transcends. I'm going to read the first part. Although Christ transcends all questions of race or ethnology, it must not be forgotten that God incarnated himself in a man of the Jewish race. So when I come back to delve into this chapter, that's where it begins, the second half of Color, Racism, and Christianity. I hope everyone has a wonderful day, and I can't wait to read this with you, to you. I'm TB. Right. Black Living Room Talk.